Can you get a woman without knowing the language in Brazil or any country? And the answer is yes. And there is a but. The big but is, but your options are limited. What I don't like is you have some guys will tell you different criterias what women like or want or what they find is handsome. And that's not true because each woman is their own individual no matter what the country is. So what the next woman find handsome, her friend or others might not find that attractive or even handsome. Now don't let this discourage you coming to Brazil thinking not knowing the language you can't get somebody or find somebody. That's not true. You can, but it's solely based on your looks and her criteria. And with going to Copacabana or finding women in Copacabana, let's say if you meet 10 women in Copacabana, it's probably, I would say, more than half of those are programmers, prostitutes. Yes. So if you go there, you got to expect that. So guys, be aware of, your forums, your groups, your vloggers out there. It's a higher chance that there's another man that knows that woman. So you can't hate on him or her because if he found her per se, for the example, on Tinder, and you're not with her anymore, guess what? You got to check that up. She's moved on, and hopefully you have too. So you can't hate. And on the other stick of that, guys, you can't say, well, look what I got, look what I met, because if she's a programmer, that means you paid for her services. So that means anybody can do it. That's not a challenge. A challenge would be that you met her somehow on the street or you met her on an app and, things got popping, meaning that you met her and, maybe things led on and other things happened. Now, I count that, but paying for sex, I don't count that. Not saying it's anything bad, but you paying for somebody to like you. You paying for somebody's services. So what you expect, of course you're gonna, bang that because you paid for it. So that's the easy way out. I don't count that. But it's your money, so you can do whatever you want to do with it. Something that's happened to me numerous times, not only in Brazil but also in Colombia, is that I've met working girls by default. What I mean by that is I've met women online or in person that never really disclose what they do or they just plain out lied to me. An example, well, she's in one of my first videos on YouTube. I met her online. We matched. She had the max amount of photos. She looked great. Everything she said about herself was cool. And I guess vice versa because we had good convo going back and forth. We actually video chatted because she wanted to see how good my Portuguese was. And I finally came to Brazil and we was trying to set up a time to meet. Now, a good time for her was after 11 p.m., which was strange to me. And also she had mentioned, do I mind if she was to stay over? So it all went down. We found the late night spot, had dinner, and came back to my apartment. She stayed the night. Everything was cool. It happened around like two more times. And when I finally came back to the U.S., I was going through old profiles that I matched with. I don't know why I was doing this. Went back to her profile and I saw that she had the same photos, but she had changed the things she said about herself. Her description was basically, I'm a programmer. I'm a working girl. And it kind of shocked me, but then again, it didn't. And the funny thing about that situation is I never confronted her about that because if she didn't bother to tell me, that means she must really like me and she doesn't want to talk about that. So, I respect that. Also, if I was to bring that up, she might turn me from somebody she liked to a customer, which I don't want to do. So till this day, we still tight, and I never mentioned that, and she never mentioned what she actually does that I know of. The lady you see above in these clips in the video, I met her in Lapa. We met about 4 years ago. We're still tight to this day. Actually, I'm going to see her probably this weekend. She's very cool. She has a job. She knows a little bit of English, but not conversational wise. So here's an example of knowing the language do pay off. Because if I didn't know the language and she knows very little English, I'm just thinking right now how far I could have got with her. Like, how long would it lasted? Because she has no patience at all. She has zero patience. So me seeing her in Lapa trying to speak English to her and everything, she probably would have just kept it moving or politely just ignored me. And you might find women in South America or Brazil very kind, very nice. And one of the reasons is that they never had a women's movement here in Brazil. Therefore, men here will beat the brakes off a woman if she tries to talk sideways to him or talk in a manner that he doesn't like. He'll beat her ass. And you gotta think about it. If it's no jobs here, so he don't have a job, and some woman out of nowhere reject him the wrong way that he doesn't like, he'll just beat her ass. And he won't even think twice about it. That's just a part of their culture. Opposed to in America, you try to do that, you probably get like maybe 50 years under the jail. And this applies also to Colombia, it applies to Guyana, it applies to Chile, it applies to the whole South America. Also applies to a lot of other continents. Another discussion is, well, women in South America or just women anywhere in general besides the US are more family orientated. They're more about caring for their man. And that's true for two reasons. One reason, like I mentioned before, there's no woman's movement, which means a man can beat a woman's ass for anything. So she has to be or lean towards being more caring and more family orientated because she can't take ass whooping. Also, you have to think people here, they date within their community. They don't have cars. They can't afford a car. So whatever, per se, if they live in a favela, most likely they're going to date somebody inside their favela, near their favela. They're not going to date somebody all the way across town. They don't have transportation. They don't have a car. What are they going to do? Uber back and forth? So it's totally different. And if he decides to beat her ass, what she's going to do? She's going to tell his mom? No, she's going to just take that. She's going to eat that. The reason is she don't want no problem because guess what? He has a mother. He has 3 sisters. He has 5 aunts. And they all going to beat her ass if she tells and put him in jail. So it's totally different here. Different society. Versus in the U.S., you try to beat a woman's ass, you go into jail. Point blank. You probably get 50 years for that shit just for hitting her one time. It's not going to happen. So that's the difference. Number 2 is money. Money makes things happen. No money, no power. So what's she going to do? She going to sue him? She ain't got no money. So let's reverse it. If women here had some type of movement, if they had better jobs, which create more money, do you think Brazil or South America would be the same? No, it would be totally different. It would be like the U.S. You would have women in more higher positions. You would have men here going to jail for beating women's ass, but it's not. It's totally different society, totally different country. The U.S. is a business. Brazil is not a business. Brazil can't afford to lock up men left and right. That's not how their jail system is built. They don't have the money. In the U.S., we got the money. So that's the difference. So that explains why dating in other countries, specifically South America, in this case Brazil, is much easier.